The county clerk looked at me with genuine confusion. She turned her monitor toward me and said, "Sir, this house hasn't belonged to your father for almost 8 months." I honestly thought she had opened the wrong file. My dad owned that house for 32 years. She typed the address again. Same result. Then she clicked on the property deed. The current owner wasn't my father. It wasn't an investment company. It wasn't a bank. It wasn't a trust. It was my younger sister, Emily Brooks. I couldn't speak because my father had died only 3 weeks earlier, and none of us had any idea the house had already been transferred. My name is Nathan Brooks. I'm 43 years old, and until last fall, I believed my father would leave behind one simple estate: a modest brick house outside Indianapolis, a small pension, some retirement savings, an old pickup truck. Nothing extravagant, just the life of a hard-working electrician who spent 4 decades fixing other people's problems before coming home every night with sore hands and dirty boots. Dad wasn't rich, but that house meant everything. He bought it when I was 8 years old. My sister Emily and I grew up there. Every birthday, every Christmas morning, every family barbecue, every memory seemed to live inside those walls. Even after Mom passed away 12 years earlier, Dad refused to sell it. He always said the same thing: "As long as I can climb those front steps, I'm staying right here." For years, he managed on his own. Then, shortly after his 76th birthday, his health started changing. It wasn't one dramatic illness, it was dozens of small ones. Balance problems, arthritis, a minor stroke. Doctor appointments became weekly instead of yearly. Emily lived only 15 minutes away. I lived almost 3 hours south because of work. Naturally, Emily spent more time helping him. At first, I was grateful. She drove him to appointments, picked up groceries, handled prescriptions, even paid utility bills online when Dad became frustrated with computers. She even organized his paperwork. Honestly, I thought she was doing what any good daughter would do. Dad seemed happier, less overwhelmed. Whenever I asked if he needed anything, he always smiled and gave the same answer: "Emily's helping me with all that now." So I stopped worrying. Maybe that was my biggest mistake. About 6 months before Dad died, our phone calls became shorter. Not because he sounded angry, because Emily usually answered first. She'd tell me Dad was resting or tired or at another doctor's appointment. When I asked to speak with him anyway, sometimes she said he had already gone to bed. Looking back, none of those excuses sounded unusual at the time, but now every one of them felt different. Dad passed away quietly one October morning. The funeral was simple, exactly what he wanted. Afterward, Emily hugged me and whispered, "Dad wanted everything peaceful." I believed her. There wasn't much to argue about, just one house, some savings, and a few personal belongings. A week later, while gathering paperwork for the probate attorney, I asked Emily for the property records. She smiled, "So I already have copies." "Great," I said. "Bring them tomorrow." She hesitated, only for a second. Then she nodded. "They're still in Dad's filing cabinet." But the next day, she arrived without them. She said she'd forgotten. Something about that answer stayed with me. Not because forgetting paperwork was unusual, because Emily never forgot paperwork. She was the organized one, the detail person, the sister who labeled storage bins and color-coded calendars. 3 days later, I drove to the county recorder's office myself. I only wanted a certified copy of Dad's deed for the probate file. Instead, the clerk quietly printed a document that completely changed everything I thought I knew about my family. Across the top, under current legal owner, was one name: Emily Brooks, recorded 8 months before Harold Brooks's death. I stared at the deed for what felt like forever. There had to be a mistake. I looked back at the county clerk. "Are you sure this is the right property?" She typed the address one more time. Same parcel number, same legal description, same transfer date. Then she quietly pointed to the signature section. The deed was properly recorded. My chest tightened. Who filed it? She shook her head. I'm sorry, sir. I can't tell you anything beyond what's already in the public record. She handed me the certified copy. The transfer had been recorded 8 months before Dad died. There was no mortgage, no sale price, no indication the property had been sold. Only one sentence stood out: transfer by warranty deed. I drove home with more questions than answers. Emily was already sitting at Dad's kitchen table when I arrived. The smell of fresh coffee filled the house. For a brief moment, everything looked normal. Then I placed the certified deed on the table. I went to the county recorder's office. She didn't answer. I slid the document toward her. The house is in your name. She looked at the paper, then looked back at me. I was going to tell you. When? She stayed silent. I waited. Finally, she whispered, Dad wanted it this way. Those 6 words should have explained everything. Instead, they raised 100 new questions. If Dad wanted it this way, why didn't he tell me? Emily folded her arms. He didn't think it would matter. It matters now. She looked exhausted, not defensive, not angry, just tired. He didn't want the house tied up in probate. That explanation sounded reasonable at first. Then I remembered something. Dad had always handled major decisions himself. When he refinanced the house years earlier, he called me before signing anything. When he updated his will, he told both of us. So why would he quietly transfer the biggest asset he owned without saying a single word? That night, I searched through every folder in Dad's home office. Insurance records, tax returns, property tax statements, old utility bills. Everything was organized exactly the way Dad always kept it, except one folder. The folder labeled Property Records. It contained only recent tax bills. The original deed was gone. So were several years of closing documents. Someone had cleaned it out. The next morning, I called Dad's longtime attorney. He sounded surprised when I asked about the transfer. I never prepared a deed transferring Harold's house. That stopped me cold. You didn't? No. If Harold wanted to transfer real estate, he usually called me first. So who prepared it? I honestly don't know. The attorney paused, then asked a question that made my stomach turn. Did Harold ever meet with another lawyer? Not that I know of. I'd find out. That afternoon, I visited Dad's bank. I wasn't looking for money. I was trying to understand the timeline. The branch manager couldn't discuss confidential account details, but after I explained that I was handling estate matters, she confirmed something unexpected. Dad had visited the branch several times during the months before the deed was recorded. He hadn't come alone. Someone had accompanied him. I already knew the answer before I asked. Was it Emily? The manager couldn't identify anyone by name. She simply said, an adult family member regularly assisted him. I drove away replaying the timeline in my head. Doctor appointments, bank visits, paperwork, property transfer, all happening while Dad's health was getting worse. I wanted to believe Emily had simply helped him carry out his wishes. I truly did. But one question refused to leave my mind. If everything had been completely honest, why had every important conversation happened when I wasn't there? That evening, I unlocked Dad's old desk one more time. Hidden beneath a stack of appliance manuals, I found a small spiral notebook. Dad's handwriting filled nearly every page. The final entry was dated just 2 weeks before the property transfer. I turned the page. The first sentence made my hands freeze. Emily says signing this will make things easier. I read the notebook entry 3 times. Emily says signing this will make things easier. The sentence stopped there. Dad had crossed out the next few words heavily. They were impossible to read. I turned the page. The next entry was written 2 days later. Emily scheduled another appointment today. Nothing else. No explanation, no mention of the house, no mention of transferring ownership. Just enough to leave me wondering what had actually happened. The following morning, I asked the probate attorney to review everything we'd found. The recorded deed, Dad's notebook, the missing property records. The attorney spent nearly an hour comparing dates. Finally, he looked up. "Nathan, legally speaking, a recorded deed is generally presumed valid unless a court determines otherwise." That wasn't the answer I wanted. But if Dad didn't fully understand what he was signing? He nodded. That's a different question, and it depends on evidence, not assumptions. For the first time since Dad died, I realized something important. I didn't need to prove Emily had done something wrong. I needed to understand what Dad had actually intended. That afternoon, I asked Emily to meet me at the house. She arrived carrying a small storage box. Before I could say anything, she placed it on the kitchen table. "I've been meaning to give you this." Inside were family photographs, Dad's military medals, Mom's wedding ring, old birthday cards, and one sealed envelope with my name written across the front. I looked at Emily. "Why didn't you tell me about this?" She lowered her eyes. "Because I knew you'd think the worst." I opened the envelope. Inside was a short handwritten letter. "Nathan, if you're reading this, Emily has probably already shown you the paperwork. The house is in her name because I asked for it." I paused. Emily quietly wiped away a tear. Dad continued. "After my stroke, I was afraid the house would sit empty during probate if something happened suddenly. Emily lives nearby. She has been helping me every week. Transferring the title was my decision." I looked at Emily again. She wasn't smiling. She looked relieved. But Dad's letter wasn't finished. "This transfer is about management, not fairness. The value of the house must still be treated as part of my estate." My eyes moved to the final paragraph. "Emily knows my wishes. She is to divide the home's value equally after expenses, just as we discussed together." Silence filled the room. I slowly lowered the letter. Then I asked the question that had been building for weeks. "If Dad wrote this, why didn't you tell me?" Emily took a deep breath. "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That you wouldn't believe me." She admitted that after Dad's stroke, every conversation about legal paperwork seemed to create arguments. Dad wanted privacy. He didn't want his illness becoming a family debate, so he handled the transfer quietly. She respected that decision, but after he died, she realized how terrible it looked. Instead of explaining everything immediately, she waited, then waited longer, until silence became impossible to defend. A few weeks later, the estate was settled exactly as Dad had requested. The house was sold. After taxes, closing costs, and final expenses, Emily divided the proceeds equally. Not because the law forced her to, because she honored Dad's written instructions. Standing outside the empty house one last time, I realized something that Dad had understood long before I did. The biggest problems in family finances aren't always caused by greed. Sometimes they're caused by poor communication. One conversation could have prevented months of suspicion, resentment, and sleepless nights. Dad believed he was making things easier. Emily believed she was respecting his privacy. I believed something had been stolen. All three of us were acting from completely different understandings of the same decision. That's why financial transparency matters just as much as legal paperwork. Because when the people you love don't understand why you made a decision, they'll often create an explanation of their own. And sometimes, that explanation hurts a family far more than the money ever could. If you discovered that your parents' house had been transferred to your sibling before they passed away, would you assume betrayal first or look for the full story? What would you have done in Nathan's situation? Share your thoughts and don't forget like and subscribe to Dollar Confessions for more powerful money stories and valuable life lessons.